Hey, it's Steven. I just want to take a quick moment to tell you how amazing Anchor FM is. When I wanted to start my podcast, it quickly rose to the top of my absolute favorite choices. Number one, it's free, and it has some great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor handles all the distribution for your podcast, so you can hear it at places like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so many more. And you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's really amazing, and it truly has everything you need to launch your own podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Welcome to Mind Your Business. I'm your host, Stephen Meadows. In this episode, I want to talk a little bit about preserving your value. So we've talked a lot about what's your wow and what do you bring to the table and why people should use your services, but we haven't gotten deep into the money discussion. And I think that's a problem that many salespeople face is defending what they're really worth. I know I've touched on defending value. I don't really want to get into so much defending it, but rather preserving it or creating the talk track that allows you to not have to defend it. So by knowing what you're worth and having a cogent, coherent way of telling people about what you offer, you don't really have to go on the defensive. You just say what you offer, and they probably either want it or they don't. So that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. And of course, as always, it's going to be slanted toward real estate because that's what I know and that's what I've done for the last 2 decades. But this applies to pretty much any sales. So whether you are an independent coach or a multi-level marketing salesperson, it doesn't really matter what sort of business you're in. Preserving your value is something that everyone needs to learn. If you're selling something, even if it's a service, you need to be able to preserve the value and show the value and demonstrate it. So let's begin with a little story. So I was an agent in Tennessee, in Columbia at the time, so south of Nashville. And I was on floor duty. For those of you who don't know what floor duty is, it's basically opportunity time, whatever you want to call it, where I was the agent on duty. So any calls or walk-ins or anything that came to the office were mine to handle, unless they were specifically asking for another agent. So I was on floor duty one day, and a lady walked in and said, "I want to talk to your top agent." Well, the company policy was that had to go to the floor agent. I was nowhere near the top agent of the company, but I wasn't too shabby. At this point, I was probably a good 10 years into the business. Maybe not quite 10, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So she came in and she told me about her house and basically was like, "I want to be in your luxury magazine." And it was actually a really cute house. It was a beautiful craftsman Sears house. So where you actually order the kit from Sears back in the day and you build it yourself. It was really cool. And it sat on top of this little knoll, 20-acre lot. It was so cool. Like you could see it was a beautiful panoramic view, had a wraparound porch. It was really neat. So we talked about what she was looking for. So when then I went out to meet she and her husband, I knew what their hot buttons were. So I crafted my marketing around what I knew they wanted. And then when the talk of commission came up, I was able to use that marketing plan to basically plant my flag in the ground, and I preserved my value and I got a full commission. And that transaction actually turned into the largest single commission of my career. So the moral of the story is severalfold. If you're an agent, do floor duty. It's worth it. I mean, like I said, I was the single largest commission I ever earned on a sale. And it was great. It wasn't even the largest sale of my career, but because I was able to preserve my commission, I was actually able to make more on that one than I did on others where the sale price might have been higher. So the second uh, the second moral of the story is preserve your value. So I basically the situation came up where I laid out what I was going to do, and I said, and this is the commission for several reasons. I'm not going to say a number because some people misconstrue that as antitrust. It's not, but I'm just not going to say it. I gave them a number, and her question was, well, what can I get for number -1? So she wanted me to drop a percent off my commission. Knowing what she wanted, I instantly said, well, for X percent, I wouldn't be marketing you in the luxury magazine. Well, that was all I needed to say. And she goes, well, if you can sell it in 75 days, I guess it's worth X. I don't know where she got 75 days from, but I never said that, but I did have it sold in 75 days or less than. So I guess I delivered, but I never said I was going to sell it that fast, but whatever. So what I was able to do with them was I set up sort of a good, better, best scenario where I was willing to take a variable commission on the sale. And I set up sort of a good, better, best. You've seen them all the time on websites. There's like 3 or 4 options. It's usually 3. 3 is kind of that good option to choose. And you give them one scenario. The second scenario is the one you want them to choose. And then the third scenario is something outlandish that they probably would never go for. The theory behind it is psychologically, 5% of people will automatically go for the most expensive thing you're offering, period, because they want the best. 15% will automatically go for the cheapest because they want to save money. The other 80% rest right in the middle. So if your ideal commission is X or price, it doesn't even have to be commission. Remember, this doesn't just apply to real estate. If your service level, let's say you have 3 services, if your ideal level is X, then your choices should be X -1, X, and X +1. So now you have 3 choices. I'm okay with any of the 3 choices, but I've structured it so that way they will more than likely choose the one I want them to choose. So in this case, it was a simple matter of grouping my offerings. So for X -1, it was basically everything that my company automatically offered. I didn't do anything extra. So it wasn't going to cost me anything, but it also wasn't going to expend any additional effort on my part. X was going to be sort of my standard package, the things I do for most of my listings. So I might have had enhanced photography, or in this case, it was the luxury magazine, which was expensive as an additional cost. I threw a couple other little perks in there. X plus one was all of that stuff, all of X with additional, I think in this case, I offered to either buy a home warranty or I offered a home inspection. I don't remember which it was at the time, but it was something that was going to cost me probably a couple extra $100, but it was well worth it. Even if they would have chosen X +1, I would have come out like a bandit, because it would have been an extra percentage on the commission, and it would have cost me a net of additional $400 or $500. So either way, I win. But what that did was it gave them the illusion of choice. And it wasn't an illusion. I mean, they get to choose, but I knew what they wanted. And in my case, I was able to say, well, if you want X, then you need to choose this plan. And so I kind of took away the choice that they had because they were dead set on being in that stupid magazine. The magazine did absolutely nothing to get the house sold. It had zero to do with it, but whatever. And just with most print advertising anymore, spoiler alert, print advertising is generally done for the benefit of the seller. It's usually just an ego stroke, unless you're in very niche markets like maybe resort markets or something like that. But for the most part, newspapers, magazines, print advertising is more of an ego stroke. Now, in the luxury space, it's a little different. I'm not going to get into a bunch of details about that, but in the high-end luxury space, print does have its place. But this was technically luxury back in the day, but it wasn't high-end luxury. It was just barely luxury. And the only reason it was considered luxury is because it was very, very rural, and it was probably the most expensive house in the county at that time, or at least in that zip code. So today, I mean, today it's the price of a starter home. Now I don't know what the house is worth today. It's probably worth a lot more, but back in that day, that same price today would be about a starter home price. It's really sad. I don't know how people afford to live sometimes. So the really important thing is that you need to be able to tell people what you're offering, tailor it to their needs so that they have no choice but to use you. And it's hard for a lot of salespeople to really preserve the value of their services. And again, I don't want to get on the defensive. I don't want you to have to get on the defensive. You should come out strong, believe in what you're selling, believe in what you're representing, and then you don't have to defend it. You're confident. Sellers or buyers in this, in some cases, like this, buyers of a service, they want to know that you're confident in the power of your product. If you're sitting there squirming around going, well, I hope I can get this house sold, or I hope my widget works for you. I mean, I think it's great, but maybe that doesn't instill confidence. And that's when I'm going to say, well, I'll give you half of what you're asking for it because I'm not sure it's going to work. So you have to have that confidence, and that is probably the first thing in preserving your own value, is believing in what you're selling. I believed, and still do, because I did it, I believed that I had everything they needed to sell that property. I believed that my marketing, I believed that my efforts were going to succeed, and they did. And that confidence is what helped me land the deal. So have confidence in what you're offering. If you don't, then figure out why. What about what you're offering or what your company has to offer? What about that is giving you pause? Is it a technology problem? Is it an execution problem? Maybe you're like, I think this is great, but I don't personally know how to work it. I love this piece of technology, but I don't know what to do with it. I love, this marketing thing, but I don't know. I don't have the wherewithal to create it. If that's the case, get more training. Get out there and learn a new skill. There's tons of places out there. There's a place called udemy.com, udemy.com. Great. Skillshare.com is a great place. If you're in real estate, there's tons of training you can take. Your company probably offers a lot of training. I hope they offer a lot of training. But just the other day, somebody needed a flyer, and I volunteered. I'm like, I'll just do it. It's absolutely not my job, and it's not even my strong suit. But thanks to a website called Canva, it was very easy. Now I have a pro account, but you don't even need one. I created a flyer, and it looked amazing. If you don't know how to use it, you just watch a YouTube video on it. It's so easy. There's so many ways you can get that confidence. And then you're preserving that value. Education is the path toward preservation of value, if you want my honest opinion. The more educated you are, the more confident you become in what you're selling or the service that you're offering. And that confidence is going to draw people in. So I could go on and on about this, but I am going to go ahead and call it quits for right now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would love to hear some feedback. You guys have been so quiet lately. Don't forget, you can always comment if you see this on social media, YouTube. If you want to send me an email, just send it to info@cmvbooks.com. I would love to hear from you and know what other tips and tricks you use to preserve your value. So until next time, get out there and make great choices.